Welcome back to Bazaar. I'm Inko, and as this video goes live, Season 2 will probably already be live. Patch 2.0 is a fairly massive overhaul. There are a couple of tremendously impactful changes in here and a ton of minor balance changes, and as is so often the case, I'm a huge fan of what I'm seeing. Say what you will about the Bazaar, I have always been a massive fan of its constant iterative balance changes, and let's get right into that. I'm going to be skipping past the stuff at the start here, which is about the expansions, the changing seasons, all of that's more or less what you would expect. But the gameplay changes are fairly massive. Heal previously cleansed 1 stack of burn and poison. Now it cleanses 10% of your burn and poison instead. That is a massive change. I've been one of the people preaching in the previous patches in the previous months that essentially defensive builds just didn't work and had no place in the meta. I don't know if this is enough to change it, but that is a massive buff to all heal effects and is a very real shot at completely changing how the game works. And also, additionally, it's just a massive buff to heal effects, which are, in general, not top-tier builds to begin with, so it's a massive game-changing effect, and I'm really looking forward to seeing how it shakes out. Most passive items can no longer get radiant enchantments. It's about time, glad to see that. And I will be skipping over anything that's a bug fix or repetitive changes, so it's there, you can read it. I'm not gonna, it's a long patch notes. There are a lot of changes, it'll get bogged down a lot if I cover every minor bug fix, but this is not minor. Mak now has the same starting health as everyone but Pig at 250. That helps make up for his early game weakness a lot. I think that it's probably just a good change in general. It makes the game make more sense for new players. Mak wasn't so strong that he needed lower starting health, and if he was, I would argue that was a problem and he should be reined in and given the same health. And additionally, this heal change disproportionately punishes Mak because Mak is the one most most focused on burn and poison effects. Now, there's also been complete changes to how the rank points are going to work. Previously, for 0 to 3 wins, you got -1 point, for 4 to 6, you got 0, for 7 to 9, you got 1, and for 10 wins, you got 2. You can no longer lose ranks at all, and now you get 1 more point at every tier. So that means just generally you can climb the ladder a lot faster. It's still not like a ranked competitive ladder where there's elo or anything, but it does mean that for something with a monthly reset system, it's going to take a lot less time to grind to the top of the ladder, regardless of how fast you were already climbing. And then for people who feel like they can't experiment on ranked, you might still feel that way due to the fact that it requires gems and tickets to get into ranked, but at least you will no longer lose progress if you go all in on some goofy strategy that doesn't work out. Additionally, they've updated item spawners. They changed the behavior to make them give less duplicate items. I assume that basically means there's now some sort of code that weights it so that if you have an item, it is less likely to show up than otherwise would be. That's probably for the best. Nobody likes losing to a board with 5 pearls on it, 5 silencers, whatever. So, sure, I don't know that this is necessarily needed, it's sort of unintuitive, but at the same time, I don't think it's necessarily a bad thing, it's just a different thing. Now, a lot of encounters have been changed with this patch. Notably, Mountain Pass is a lot worse. You have a 50% chance of getting a monster fight from the same day or next day. Previously, you would just always click risky, which I'm pretty sure was a much higher than 50% chance. There's still a 40% shot at positive outcome, which I assume is 1 experience or a chest. I don't know what 10% chance negative outcome even means. Like, do I lose a gold? Does just nothing happen? Because nothing is a negative outcome. I would argue that, like, the chest with an item in it previously on risky was actually a negative outcome because it was the only way to not get experience. So I don't necessarily know what this means. But for now, I'm still expecting to click Mountain Pass every time because see fight, click fight, even if it's only a 50% chance of a fight. Next up, we have Futura. This is one of the options when you die. I don't remember what it previously said. I don't know if it was just to upgrade an item or upgrade an item to diamond tier. Whatever it previously was, now all bronze and silver tier items, every single one of them goes to gold tier, which is probably still worse than an enchant, but certainly a lot more tempting. Next up, Form can now spawn normally. Previously, you could only find Form inside the portal and aerodrome. He's the weapon buff guy. And there are several new versions of Form. Deflek is now the shield improvement guy, Aldrich is the heal and regen guy, Flambe is the burn guy, Botul's the poison guy. So there's a lot of diamond events for improving items that you should, I assume all of these show up normally now. So that'll really mix up like what you're seeing hour to hour compared to previous patches. There's also a new shop Gassio to sell apparel for any hero. Hopefully that's more generally useful than the toy vendor. And I forgot to mention Mad Maddie for improving your ammo items. So just a lot of new encounters hour to hour. Really like all of that. That's just improving the game iteratively. Getting into the monster updates, they've generally tier adjusted and minorly changed for balance a lot of things in ways that all feel good to me. I'm going to gloss over it a little bit, but with Viper, I want to focus on us not quite knowing what change the silver tier will mean on Viper. Viper should be silver tier. It is harder than every other day one fight, but silver tier fights cannot normally spawn as the rightmost fight. So I think we'll still be seeing 3 totally random fights on day 1, all worth the same experience. Even though Viper is a higher rarity, all of the enemies that are capable of spawning as the rightmost 3 experience plus fight are at least gold tier right now. So I don't think this guarantees a Viper spawn. If it does, I kind of dislike that. But I'm pretty sure Viper's just worth an extra gold now, making Viper a very, very good fight if you have any reason to go to Viper whatsoever, or rather, if you're capable of fighting Viper, because you pretty much always have a reason to care with the Poison Fang and Lash Out. Moving on to day 2, Rogue Scrapper got demoted to silver tier. They lost 100 health. The rest of these are just what you would expect to see on the tier change. And on day 3, it's gone all the way down to bronze tier. Instead, on day 2, your rightmost fight is going to be random again. It's going to be between Warrior and Degenerate, formerly known as Street Gamer. And I don't fight these guys a lot, so I'm probably going to screw up my games a little bit throwing on day 2, because I just don't really know how strong Warrior and Degenerate are, because they're both weird scaling boards that are hard to immediately understand. I'm going to miss the days of always fighting Rogue Scrapper in every run. It was sort of like an anchor of the run where you just always thought about this thing, but that's probably not good for the game to have something that static. So I'll miss fighting Rogue Scrapper, but this is completely fine. Different, not better or worse, in my opinion. A ton of monsters have had very minor changes, like Retiree losing tier on Bushel. Flame Juggler is generally scarier. It's gone up to Diamond tier on the first day where you can fight it, gone up to 1200 health, had its tiers adjusted. Prince Marianus is down to gold tier, meaning it's worth less XP and gold than it used to be, and it has less health and worse Illusirays. Gorgon Noble is still the same tier, but a lot of its items have been buffed to gold. It should be a little bit scarier than it used to be. And Trashtown Mare previously was kind of a joke. I think its scaling damage was set to base. Now it's actually been scaled effectively to 150 and 200 on its items, making it much scarier than it used to be. And also it drops gold tier on these scaling items for you, which is, making the rewards better for everyone. But especially if you're somehow playing a build that actually wants to pick up a dog or a shelter. Mod Squad gets a lot scarier here with Bulldozer going to gold tier. The new charcoal buffs actually made Mod Squad kind of deceptively strong in my experience. I haven't thrown and lost to him yet, but Bulldozer was actually decently scary. And with the Bulldozer itself going, Mod Squad was decently strong and scary. With the Bulldozer going to gold tier, I genuinely think that this guy's gonna surprise me and kill me at least once on the patch before I get used to him. And a change I greatly appreciate is Ghost Pepper going to diamond tier. This guy had no business being a silver tier enemy. He's been massively increased in tier. He skipped straight past gold to diamond and been nerfed in spite of that, which, frankly, he deserved. Hilariously, Lich is not in the list of changes. They think Lich is fine. I fully ascribe to the conspiracy theory that they collect data on who beats Lich to figure out what they need to nerf, because I don't know how Lich is okay. Anything that's super minor, like this treasure turtle stuff, I'm just gonna be glossing over, but Radiant Corsair is a pretty serious rework. They have their Spyglass gone, which was tremendously random. It was a very long fight, so what got hit by Spyglass could really impact whether you won or lost, and I'm really glad it doesn't work that way anymore. But it's been replaced with a gold tier dock lines. A reminder, the Radiant Corsair is a lighthouse, a diamond tier one now. So, he might just burn you down. Right-handed and Final Flame are also a lot of additional damage and burn, I assume on the katanas where the damage is going. I don't remember the board orientation. But the gold tier dock lines diamond lighthouse on a 7,200 health enemy makes this guy incredibly scary now. Also, much more worth fighting, as those are just very good items that anyone might be able to make use of. Oasis Guardian goes up in tier. Dr. Vortex gets diamond tier items now, which I don't think affects how strong he is in a super meaningful way. Bouncertron goes down to silver, probably deserved it. Minor buffs to tiers on Burninator. Huge buff to tiers on a dragon, notably because Draconic Rage was already the best skill in the game, and now he gets the diamond tier version of it, making him scarier and the rewards that much better, although realistically, if you got Draconic Rage, you probably already went 10 wins with the gold version. More Oasis Guardian tier changes. Yardan's down to bronze tier, has diamond tier Piggles and obsidian cargo shorts. I don't think that's useful, but if they're a high tier, it could be worth grabbing them, or you would never go to Yardan for a chance at a medium gold tier obsidian item to transform, would you? I don't think you would. Anyways, the Roaming Isle is going down in tier. Pharaoh's Khan is going up to gold tier, which I think is appropriate. He's a pretty scary fight. He's oftentimes scarier than the rightmost enemy. Minor buff to Enclave Revenant, minor nerfs to Vulcus Enforcer. For All Street Champion going up in tier, really it deserved it. Void Golem and Void Colossus are swapping tiers, which makes sense because Void Golem was the more scary of the two with his random start of combat item destruction. And Lord of the Waste, I cannot talk today. Lord of the Waste is going down to silver tier, which I'll miss getting the free 4 experience every time I see this guy because he did not deserve to be diamond at all. But he gets straight past gold down to silver, kind of deserved it. Although I think Veteran Octopus is in the same boat. Like, he's definitely funnier and more interesting, but Veteran Octopus is an 8,888 health punching bag. Who knows, maybe with a high tier strength and a higher tier arms race, it'll actually be kind of scary. Lord Arkan had his board rearranged, he desperately needed it. And he gained a diamond tier flurry of blows, which is not a minor skill to add to a board. Might be a lot scarier. And Pigs Rejoice, Property Baron's diamond tier. No longer do you have to skip the hardest fight to go after Property Baron. Now you just get to go after Property Baron without giving up any opportunity cost experience. However, of some note, if you come over to howbazaar.gg and look at day 10 plus, you can see there were 3 enemies in the bronze slot, 2 enemies in the silver slot, and 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8 enemies in the rightmost slot. So even though I won't have to give up experience to fight Property Baron anymore, I will simply see Property Baron much, much less than I used to. Which brings us into the item changes, and there are some big ones. First on the list, crypto is finally fixed. It actually, bounces around from 0 to its max value like it's supposed to, which is a pretty direct and meaningful nerf to crypto, because it was previously much better than it should have been. Duct tape is a Dooley item again. I think that's just a good change. It makes stuff like Armored Core feel a lot more viable. Forklift is redesigned. It deals 100 damage still. When you use an adjacent item, charge it 1 to 2 seconds depending on tier. And then for each type you have amongst tech, tool, apparel, weapon, and friend, gain 50, 100, and 150 damage depending on tier for each. I don't know how good that is. Like, if you have all of them, it hits for 850 damage at diamond, I think every 10 seconds. I don't think it's slower than that. You could theoretically make it kind of scary with a pair of very fast items, but realistically, I just do not see Forklift being super impressive. I think there's probably something you can do with like having Core, then Forklift, then an Uzi, and just something generically fast on the other side of your board. But I can't imagine this is a particularly strong design for a card, but I'm willing to eat crow about that. Hologram Projector is essentially Quicksilver for Dooley. It's just gold diamond tier instead of silver gold diamond tier. And like Quicksilver, I expect it's probably going to be pretty bad because generally speaking, you have a lot of small items on your board, and a Hologram Projector will have the same problem Quicksilver did, where it's either going to have a chance of copying something where it does nothing to have a second win, or a chance of copying something that's just really not as impactful on average as running a more guaranteed item in that slot. Next up, several tech items have been reworked. Lens now charges the tech item to the right of it specifically as opposed to another tech item. However, this second effect no longer scales with rank. Light bulb's cooldown now changes with tier, and it charges the tech item to the right of it in 1 second. When you buy this, you get a small tech item. This doesn't say redesign. I assume it still increases crit chance as a result of that. But I'm not convinced that's true, because this seems like a crazy thing to staple onto the text of Power Sander. I feel like these both might be redesigns. We don't have the data mining notes from howbazaar.gg yet. So, I don't know if this is old Light Bulb Plus and old Power Sander Plus or full reworks. It feels like the card doesn't do enough like this and it does too much in the other way. I think these are fully reworked. Light Bulb in this state is very, very fast, and I think worth playing. Power Sander is a weird one. It is good with a drill, admittedly. I don't know if I've ever actually read the Power Sander out loud. It's haste the item to the right for 1 to 4 seconds, slow the item to the left for 1 second. And seeing as simultaneous haste and slow has been identified as being drunk with shot glasses, I kind of feel like this is really unsafe power sanding etiquette. This feels thematically confused now. Next up, the Robotics Factory starts at Diamond tier and your friends have +1 multicast. We've just gone back in time a month. I personally would have liked to see Gold tier stay around and still have a 1 second penalty on cast time. I don't think that would be bad for the game. I think it'll make it easier to find Robotics Factory. and I think the old diamond one was playable, it just wasn't quite good enough, especially with how hard it was to find. But I do prefer this to how it was implemented in the previous patch, and this sort of change will happen to all the multicast items that got nerfed in the previous patch. Next up, Virus has been reworked. Now it's poison 1, 2, 3, or 4 yourself for each virus on your board, and transform another non-legendary small item on each player's board into Virus for the rest of the fight. I don't understand. I think the idea is that, like, you're supposed to have one small item and it's Virus, maybe, and then you break your opponent's build, but what's the cooldown? Because it used to be like 11 seconds. My opinion on Virus is that I'm deeply confused by this rework. It is thematically really cool. I like the new design a lot. And something someone pointed out in my card reveal videos is that generally with new cards and redesigns, tempo is so fast with balancing that they should be, or we, the viewers, the audience, the players, should be more concerned with is a design good than is a design powerful. I really agree with that. And I think this is a fantastic design. I don't know that this is good, but I really like the design of the card. Moving on to Pig's items, the Beehive has been nerfed. Its silver and gold tiers now give 15 and 20, down from 20 and 30 damage per property. So minor nerf on scaling, definitely needed based on what other people are saying. I've been on a hiatus for a week. Next up, Bushel's been changed to gain a regen, and it gains a lot with tier. It goes 3, 6, 12, 24, it just scales exponentially, which is not how scalings work. Like, they've been constantly doing patches to normalize scaling across tiers. We're gonna cover that more already. Like, the bird got hit with a diamond tier normalization nerf this patch. So that number will obviously be changed in the future to not double at every tier, which is crazy. Barring that, what do I think it means for Bushel? It's probably a nerf. They just massively buffed healing, and simultaneously Bushel had really high heal values to begin with. It's definitely a nerf at bronze and silver tier, which I swear Bushel saw by far the most play anyway. Cold Room's just getting nerfed down to a 12-second cooldown. It probably needed it. It was a very, very strong item. And its restorative enchantment now gives it heal equal to 10 times its item's regen. I want to say it just previously doubled the regen gain, and it was really underwhelming, so I appreciate that change. A change I don't appreciate, though maybe it's fair, is that the deadly enchants on Fort and Iceberg both gained 50% crit chance reduction as opposed to 100%, which, you know, fine. They probably shouldn't just auto-win break your opponent's build, but it is less flavorfully effective, I guess. It makes more sense to me to turn off their crit chance, although it really didn't even do that. They could still crit. I have died 2 crits with Deadly Iceberg on camera. So, I don't know. It rubs me the wrong way, but it's probably a good change. I think it's just something I personally don't like. The golf clubs and kukri both now trigger on regeneration gaining as well as healing. So not every second, but every time the cold room goes off, which is definitely a good change. Same thing's happening on Hogwash, by the way. And the enchantment chimings were updated as well. Luxury Tints is also now applying to your regen items, which notably makes me start thinking about whether or not I can, like, reliably fit luxury tints into a cold room build. The answer is probably hell no, but giving a multi-freeze item multi-cast is always a very scary thing to think about. And unfortunately, Ledger has gotten hit again. Now it's 357, it was previously 4812, which is a minor nerf at silver, but still meaningful, and a massive nerf at higher tiers. Lemonade Stand now gains regen equal to 5% of your max health for the fight. That's definitely a whole hell of a lot better than healing for it. I don't know if that's going to be good enough to make me, like, pursue Lemonade Stand as a build, but it's definitely powerful and I'm very interested in trying it out. Luxury Hewas is getting less value when you sell a property, down to 3579 depending on tier, and its cooldown's back up to 8 seconds. So weaker than it is now, stronger than it was originally. Money Tree is also getting buffed. Now it does double this item's value, and it's a 3-second cooldown down from 4, which helps make it a lot closer in power level to a fixer-upper. It is still less good than a fixer-upper, but not nearly as bad. And part of that is that they're nerfing the ways of scaling value outside of Money Tree, and Money Tree is now when you level up and at the start of each day get a spare change, in addition to gaining more value, 2 to 8 depending on tier, when you sell that spare change. So these are all really important buffs to Money Tree. I still don't think it's better than Fixer Upper, but it's definitely a whole hell of a lot closer than it used to be. They finally fixed the Piggles bug. You will no longer get Piggles from your opponents. And now Piggles upgrade a random Piggle at the start of each day, which I really appreciate. Because previously, I've never liked upgrading Piggles because I would then have a silver Piggle and I'd already have a bunch of bronze Piggles on my board. It'd be a hassle to slowly rotate them out. It had nothing to do with it being good or bad. It just felt bad to deal with your multi-tier Piggles. So now your Piggles additionally upgrade a random Piggle at the start of each day, which I really appreciate. Next up, Pig's Gym has had its value scaling tripled from 1 to 3 up to 3 to 9, which is just massive. It was already... it wasn't good. It was a strategy that could go 10 wins. It wasn't bad. Now it might genuinely just be good. You'll be able to transition into it so much faster than you previously could. T-Set's permanent health scaling has doubled. Unfortunately, doubling nothing still results in me not caring about the item, but gaining 10 to 20 regen for the fight makes it better as a defensive item. I still don't think it's actually going to be very good, but it's more playable than it used to be. Speaking of, Vineyard now gives you a truffle when you trigger its passive effect, and it now gives you passively regen equal to its value. Again, I don't think that's going to be enough for me to think Vineyard's a good card, but it's certainly a lot better than it used to be, and I like seeing changes like this. And lastly for Pig, the bird is now normalized from whatever its previous values were to 20 to 50. It used to be a lot more variable from bronze to diamond, and it additionally on top of that gained 1 to 4 regen depending on tier, and I think that's just generally good for bird. Bird is more likely to have its base values matter at lower tiers, so I would call this a buff, and the regen really helps as well, especially early in the game. Which brings us lastly to Mak. That's not true, Vanessa's at the bottom. Oh, they're in alphabetical order. First up, the Apothecary now only spawns reagents, it no longer spawns catalyst. I called this out in my previous feedback videos, I'm really glad to see it being addressed. You never needed a reagent or a catalyst randomly. Depending on your stash, you would only want catalysts or only want reagents, so it's nice to have this consistently give one of them now. Boiling Flask has had its penalty just completely removed. I think this is just the old Boiling Flask, except the silver tier version doesn't exist. So yeah, like that change. Boiling Flask is playable again. That's a huge buff to potion builds. And all of Calcinator, Retort, and Philosopher's Stone receive the exact same change, which is +1 to their scaling value at every tier. And to be clear on what that means, it's not going from multiples of 2 to multiples of 3. Calcinator used to be 2 to 8, now it's 3 to 9. It's just +1 flat across the entire thing. And I think that's really appreciated. It makes the baseline versions of these items at bronze and silver a lot better. And it makes Philostone feel much more playable to not be at 1 regen when it's at bronze. I still think Philostone's probably on the weaker side, but I think it needs to be to keep design space open for regeneration items. And now, for real this time, lastly, it's Vanessa's items. She has a new item, the Custom Scope. It doesn't say it, but it's a small item. The weapon to the right of this has plus 15 to 25% crit chance, and if you have only one weapon, when you crit with it, charge a non-weapon item 1 to 2 seconds. That's a very scary effect for any sort of multicast one-weapon build, if you have important non-weapon items. Elemental Depth Charge took a huge nerf. Its freeze duration has been halved, and that's going to make it far less powerful than it used to be. I think it's still going to be strong, but it's not going to be as strong as it was. We've talked about the deadly nerf on Fort, same thing on Iceberg. Mantis Shrimp, now when you slow an item, has double the burn scaling it used to. I really appreciate that. I have had so many runs where I've had Mantis Shrimp and just been astounded by how little it did, so I'm glad to see it scaling its burn in a meaningful way now. Piranha is finally once again a friend. So many people have memed about this, I've been one of them. I'm glad it got the friend tag. Shark Claws receive a very minor nerf. They no longer buff themselves. This is also a pretty important nerf for the, what's he called? The lone shark enemy that has 2 pairs of Shark Claws. I assume they'll buff each other, but still not themselves. Shipwreck is once again diamond only. And again, I will reiterate, I would like to see weaker gold tier versions of these with the 1 second cooldown increase. I think that makes sense as a way to buff them from gold to diamond. And I think having them be so rare at diamond only does hurt the flavor of the class and the ability to like utilize these really important late game pieces a lot just because they're so much rarer. But if that's not an option, I certainly prefer this implementation to the old one. And lastly, another new item, Tortuga. It is a large item. Its cooldown goes from 12 to 10 depending on tier, so starting silver tier. Damage is 300 to 900, which is quite a lot. And haste your other items for 1 second, which is also quite a lot. When you use a friend, charge this 2 seconds. So get out of here, Water Wheel. New friendship started with Tortuga is how I feel about that. Although I suppose they aren't necessarily mutually exclusive, but they probably are. I don't know that I think Tortuga is obviously insane. I know that I think Tortuga is cool and I'm looking forward to trying to use it. just because, like, 10-second cooldown when you use a friend, charge this 2 seconds, base damage 900. Like, there's no way the diamond version of Tortuga can't win a game. I don't know that it's super strong, but I know that I like the design of the card. There are a couple of NPC items that got reworked as well. They were both previously pretty awful. Broken Shackles was unplayably bad before, it's still not great. Now your weapons gain 4-8-12 as opposed to whatever pitiful amount it used to be, and they charge for 2 seconds as opposed to 1 second when you use a weapon. They only had a 1 second nerf and cooldown for that, so this is a pretty massive buff to the Shackles. And Cosmic Plumage previously did I think 9 shield and damage at Diamond tier. It's been tripled in value basically, and this when you crit charge effect has been tripled in effect as well. The crazy thing is those items are still probably both bad despite being absolutely massively buffed, which goes to show how badly they needed those buffs, and I appreciate them coming through. And that brings us to the last section of the patch notes, the skills. There's not a lot of skill rebalancing happening. Coolant Leak, Lefty Loosey, Righty Tighty, and Working Hard just had various bugs fixed with those, and everything else is a new skill. Alchemical Precision, I assume for Mac, is your potions have their cooldowns reduced by 1 second to Diamond tier only. Herbal Supplements, Vital Reserves, and Walk-In Clinic are new skills for regen that are similar to the burn and poison skills that already existed for those archetypes, granting flat regen either to all items or your leftmost or rightmost items. And lastly, Pop-Up Shop, your toys and apparel have their cooldowns reduced by 5-10%. I don't know if this is a neutral skill or a pig skill. I can't imagine it's an everybody skill. And there are probably builds that appreciate this, but it seems fairly niche to me. So wrapping it up, I really like this patch. There's almost nothing here I disagree with. There are so many changes that I like. The heal change being number 1 on the list. I think something like this was a long time coming. And I'm really looking forward to playing on the new patch. I never really try to assess exactly what a meta is going to look like when I read the patch notes. There's always going to be so many moving parts where something goes under my notice, where there are things that are becoming stronger that I'm not catching on to, things that are getting nerfed in ways I'm not seeing. And generally speaking, even with patches where I like all the changes individually, there have been several patches where the net effect of the patch was actually the game getting into a much more unhealthy meta for fairly unintuitive reasons. So in conclusion, I have no idea what the metagame is going to look like. I have no idea how healthy the game is, how balanced it's going to be, but I think all of the changes are for the best. They're improving the way the game plays, they're improving balance, and I'm looking forward to playing on the new patch. I hope you are too. Anyways, that'll be all for now. Thank you for your time. If you made it this far, then please do hit the like and subscribe buttons. I really should do these call to actions at the start, but I swear to God, it really does help the channel grow, and I really, really do appreciate it, even if I'm terrible about doing them when most people are actually still watching the video. Anyways, I'll see you in the next one. Peace.